Women's rights activists celebrated outside the United Kingdom's highest court on Wednesday after it ruled that the definition of a woman under equality legislation referred to biological sex.
The terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex. But we counsel against reading this judgment as a triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another. It is not.
The Supreme Court's judgment related to whether a so-called trans woman, in other words, a man who wishes to be identified as a woman with a gender recognition certificate, a formal document that gives legal recognition of someone's new gender, is protected from discrimination as a woman under Britain's 2010 Equality Act. The ruling said trans people would not be disadvantaged by its landmark decision, which is the latest example of the wider culture war around transgender rights ending up before the court.
Really simple. In the judgment, it was read out that the problem of any other interpretation was that it would have given trans people more rights than other people. So this just sets it back to square one. Everyone has equal rights. Not one group is privileged over another.
The ruling is seen by many women's rights advocacy groups worldwide as an unequivocal victory. And while the United Kingdom Supreme Court did indeed choose to protect women's rights, a close look at the actual law being interpreted reveals a messier, more complicated image. The law in question is the Equality Act of 2010, which in broad strokes aims to protect certain protected groups against discrimination. These groups include disabled people, religious minorities, and, crucially in this case, women. One of the major points is to protect them from workplace discrimination, for example, from them receiving lower pay.
And we just need protections based on that. And I think that, we are more than happy for safe services and spaces to be provided for other groups of people depending on their needs.
The law has over the years been abused numerous times in order to extract many millions of pounds worth of payouts based on supposed gender-based discrimination by UK companies. Infamously, it is the Equality Act of 2010 that is one of the centrepieces of the continuing Birmingham bin strike, where garbage collectors in Birmingham have been on strike for weeks in response to planned pay cuts. Since the law's introduction, Birmingham Council has been saddled with over £1 billion worth of equal pay claims. Often, the crux of these cases is that jobs whose workforces skew male receive higher pay than jobs whose workforces skew female.
It's been nearly 8 weeks now. We've had rubbish accumulated. Sometimes they come along 2-3 weeks later, take it, but obviously now it's getting even worse because the bins are full. The recycling in some of the bins is still there, starting to smell.
These numerous equal pay cases have caused major budgetary issues for Birmingham Council. They were forced to cut expenses wherever they could. Ultimately, it fell on the bin collectors, many of whom were to receive substantial pay cuts. The Binmen's Labour Union objected and initiated a strike, which continues to this day.
Just pay money, obviously. They deserve the pay. It's not an easy thing to do, is it? Look, we're doing their work. I know how hard it is. I will lift for the bin liners up. And it's not easy, is it? And then they got to do this 7 days a week, isn't it?
Birmingham Council has yet to put forward an offer the Birmingham binmen find acceptable, and the binmen are not backing down. This standoff carries on, all the while rubbish festers in the streets. And all this is caused by people exploiting a short-sighted law that heavily incentivised filing cases over contrived issues in the hope of a payout. While the UK Supreme Court's decision from the 16th of April, celebrated by many as a victory in the culture wars, and others celebrate on women's rights grounds, it is worth considering whether this piece of anti-discrimination legislation is even a good thing at all, at least in its current form.